This takes place over the course of at least a few weeks, possibly a month. The wife took some time off. I slowed way down at this. Things have just been more relaxed lately. It's been good. I did go out a bunch of times with a camera, but I made little to no attempt to actually be productive. Sometimes I was productive, most times I was not productive, but it felt great to do it that way, just slow way down. And if no video resulted from this, that would have been perfectly fine also. I'm shooting my late 2004 Canon 1DS Mark II here on this very cold morning. Even at my most productive, sometimes I don't know what video I'm making until it's nearly done. I'd say I was like 75% finished when I asked myself that question. I didn't even consistently use the same camera body this time around, but the answer was clear. Every single time I went out, I brought 2 and only 2 lenses with me. The Sigma EF 35mm 1.4 Art and the Canon EF 200mm 2.8 L2. And that's pretty interesting. Why did I make that decision so many times in a row? I mean, I know why. I'm not clueless as to my motivations, but that there is a topic, by golly. In terms of price, secondhand market price, these aren't the cheapest of the cheap lenses, but they're definitely not expensive either. I think of lenses in this price range as pretty doable, affordable, as far as lenses go, and of course an amazing value for your money with both. The quality to price ratio is ridiculously stacked in your favor. We're talking around $900 US all in to own both. Granted, that is fairly expensive, but of course you don't have to own both, nor do you have to buy them at the same time. There are cheaper ways to go that are credible. There are more expensive ways to go that make sense. I've got a step-up ring and filter on this because the filter threads are damaged on my 35. I was able to save some money that way, which worked out great. Same with this 200. It had a little bit of cosmetic damage. I saved $50, $100, whatever it was. I'm extremely fine with that sort of an arrangement, as long as the glass is in great condition, which it is. This was the 2-year anniversary of my mom's death. I went to a location that's a favorite of mine, a spot I would very much like to share with her, where she's still alive. Why didn't I go to a favorite spot of hers? Well, she didn't really have favorite spots, at least not anymore, not at the stage of her life she was in when we moved to New Mexico. I thought I was coming out here to shoot her camera. I did, a little. I guess that part is just for me, though. I'm not including that. But overall, that did not feel like the right approach. And it's hard to explain why. I guess it's like, yes, I have her camera, yes, I have her lenses. Yes, I feel connected to her when I use them. But I'm imbuing them with more significance than she did. You know, like, I ended up shooting my R5 this day, mostly. But my R5 does not define me as a person. It's just some camera from some company. It could just as easily be something else, so I want to be careful to what extent I direct my feelings for her toward an object that is not her. Normally, I enjoy using her camera. I want to honor her. And it's a fun camera. This particular day, that just didn't feel like the most authentic way to remember her, so I went with my gut, switched. Besides that, I don't know how to articulate what I was feeling. Just, I tried it and it felt wrong. That's basically it. My wife was with me this day, which was awesome. Most of the photos I took were of her. We told stories about my mom. It was a lovely afternoon. Cold, but lovely. And then I roamed around. I did a little bit more shooting. But the $400 to $500 range for lenses, of course I prefer to stay below that, price-wise. I think of $400 as the next price tier up from the really great deals you can find on unwanted EF lenses of a certain caliber. And they're great too. I shoot on a bunch of sub-$400, sub-$300 lenses. But I also recognize the superiority of some of the lenses in this price range on the used market. If I could only own 2 EF lenses, I suppose it would have to be these two. I might have chosen different ones at different points in time, but that doesn't matter. I've learned. I've experienced new things and I've updated my opinions accordingly. Sigma Art 35mm 1.4, Canon 200mm 2.8 L2. I should interject, I have a larger EF lens strategy with more lenses, a 5 lens strategy, a 7 lens strategy, depending, mostly primes but not entirely, all considerably less expensive than these two also. So I'm not saying this is my new strategy to replace that one or those ones. I'm saying that very frequently I can't haul around 5 lenses with me, even if they are light. Certainly not 7. So this is my pared down, bare bones version of that strategy, or just my EF lens strategy in its simplest form. So yes, these are my two favorites. Individually, I love them, but even more so as a pair. It's like having the two extreme ends of a very amazing, very expensive zoom lens, only at a fraction of the price and possibly weight, and with way better optical quality, probably. And I say that not just because I happen to own them, but because I feel that they're special. Better optical quality, maybe, than some zoom lenses, than a lot of zoom lenses, but with a hint of vintage charm. I say vintage. The Sigma Art really isn't even very old. It's from 2012. The 200mm is authentically vintage. The Mark II version of this lens, which I'm using, is from 1996, which replaced the Mark I from 1991. For me, the 200mm prime replaced a much more expensive Canon 70-200 2.8L twice, actually. I'm not saying it's better, I'm saying the quality is remarkably similar at a fraction of the cost, size, and weight. Yes, you give up some flexibility in your composition, and I definitely feel that sometimes. But everything is always a trade-off, a compromise, in life and in photography. Everything about photography is a compromise. Even setting your exposure is quite literally a compromise. I want a deeper depth of field, but I can't have it because there's not enough light. My shutter speed would be too slow. It would introduce motion blur. So I crank up the ISO, but that'll also crank up the noise. Or the opposite, it's too bright. I want a shorter depth of field, even with my shutter set to close at the fastest speed possible, and my ISO set as low as possible. I still cannot shoot wide open unless I use an ND filter, which will introduce more lens flare. Right, in any situation, always setting your exposure is a literal compromise. Photography in general is. You're prioritizing one or more things at the expense of one or more other things. That's just how it goes. So yeah, there are advantages with zooms, obviously. Disadvantages, advantages with primes, so forth, so on. Despite the age gap, I really do feel there's a kinship between the look of the images coming out of both of these lenses. For me, they really both transport you to the same place. How will they compare on a purely technical level? On a high-resolution modern sensor next to modern premium lenses designed for mirrorless, probably somewhat poorly, admittedly. Have I owned technically better lenses? Yes, of course. We're not talking about the best of the best of the best possible ever. Money is no object. We're talking about really, really great, but affordable and portable. That's important. So I'm sure I don't need to explain, if you own a lot of gear, seldom is it possible to have all of your gear with you. Those are the sorts of decisions that must be made in advance. For me, the more difficult the terrain or the longer the hike, the less I can probably take with me. I find as it's become winter, although I must say a much more mild winter than the last several, at least so far. But nevertheless, I have more gear with me related to surviving the cold, which leaves even less room for camera gear. How do these two lenses fare with portraits? I hear some version of myself asking. Okay. I've used and do use them for portraits, a little bit at least, particularly the 35. But for portraits, 50 is my sweet spot. 85 is also really good. 200mm portraits, I'm not a huge fan of that look, though I was taught that way, so I have done a lot of 200mm portraits in my time, but that's not my thing anymore. But they're both pretty good. The 35 in particular, it's nice for portraits. Both lenses you can shoot wide open safely if you're adapting them to mirrorless. The 200 is also safe to shoot wide open all the time on a DSLR or a film SLR. The 35 will get a little less reliably sharp even on mirrorless as the person you're photographing is farther away from camera. Even more so on a DSLR. Shooting a full-length portrait wide open on the 35, even if you nail focus, there's going to be a little bit of haze or ghosting. Not tons, but that's typical. Stop down just a little bit, it'll fix that. Or keep shooting wide open, but get quite a bit closer. That'll fix it as well. The 200mm 2.8, as I said, you can safely shoot wide open all the time, even for portraits. It's going to look very consistently sharp on mirrorless, on a DSLR, on a film camera. The 35mm is my main video lens. It's so gorgeous for video. Noisy though, that's kind of a bummer. So if you want to use autofocus and you want to capture audio with an onboard mic, you'll be disappointed. Maybe, I guess. If you do manual focus or you use off-camera mics, man, it is such a good lens for video. That's the lens I use for almost all the video I shoot. I mean, not this kind of video, not for whatever internet platform, but I mean when I'm actually trying to make video look cinematic. This is a fabulous lens for that. Just imperfect enough with a little bit of haze here and there. Just sharp enough, even with a relatively shallow depth of field. Video shot with this Sigma Art 35 has this great 1990s motion picture vibe to it. I love it. And I like a really shallow depth of field with still photography, depending on the situation. And for portraits, yes, absolutely, even more so. In most situations. I love getting just an eye in focus, but I'm less of a fan of that with video. It can end up looking gimmicky and obnoxious in video to me. Certainly not always. But, and maybe this is all just my weirdness, certainly it's only a feeling, not a conclusion drawn from data. It feels right, and photography feels very natural. In videography, it feels like too much and unnatural. Whereas I'd choose to shoot a still photo of a person wide open, I would close down a little bit to get a matching shot on video. 1.4 for a photo, sure, that's reasonable to me, but I'd probably go minimally 2.2 for a similar shot on video. I like an out of focus background and foreground, even with video, but I don't like where only part of the face is in focus with video. I want the whole face in focus, not just an eye. Usually, unless that's the whole point of the shot, or you're shoved up against a wall and you would like it to fall out of focus just a little bit, even though there's not much space to work with. Of course, there are always deviations from the rule that make sense at certain times, but I don't know, is that strange? I didn't always know that about myself, but it is something I discovered a long time ago in the course of seeing what works and what doesn't. And I don't know if that's related to this question that I kind of raised a moment ago. Why don't I try to make everything look cinematic? This video, for example. I do sometimes, just for my own amusement, I guess. I like doing it for fun. I think my R5 shoots great video, and yet I rarely use it for shooting video, for the internet at least. Sometimes that bugs me. Feels like a missed opportunity. Part of me would like to, but most of me finds it annoying, and prefers when real things are presented in real ways. Not so glossy. I like old YouTube and the old internet, and I'm not such a fan of now. That's the philosophical reason. There are practical reasons too. I'm dealing with difficult terrain today. Sometimes I'm dealing with long hikes, but the more cinematic the video, the more locked down I'm probably going to be forced to be. More gear will be required, which makes me less mobile, which means fewer opportunities for photos. If I'm trying to let photography be the star, how can it be? If the video is basically matching or exceeding the vibe and the quality of the photos, the point of taking photos becomes less and less clear to me. And that's the part I like. I don't really see myself as a filmmaker. Not that I don't like filmmaking, I do. But I mean, you've got to make choices. Sometimes I use an action camera, sometimes I use my phone, but most often I use a I don't think it fits neatly into any camera category, but a DJI Pocket 3. It's like a tiny stick camera on a tiny gimbal. I wear it like an action camera, but I also hit the quick release and handhold it sometimes. You kinda have to. You have to babysit it a little. The gimbal will drift all over the place if you don't. But it's a great middle point for me. It looks better than an action camera, but it's more work. It looks worse than a mirrorless, but it's less trouble. So anyway, it's not just that the Sigma Art 35mm 1.4 and the Canon 200mm 2.8 L2 are my favorite two EF lenses, which yes, I suppose they are. It's more how well they complement each other for landscape photography or whatever it is that I do. How much I feel I can get done without my full bag of lenses, my full 5 EF lens strategy or 7 EF lens strategy. Incredible range at an unusually high level of quality for a great price. Beautiful, premium quality, great in low light, easy to carry around. They're not tiny lenses, granted, but small and light enough to really make a difference. When you just need to be as mobile as possible, when you're on a budget, when you're looking for better performance than zooms will generally give you, at least at a decent price point. You give up something when you choose not to use zooms, convenience, but you gain something, quality, just as you do with action cameras versus mirrorless versus something in between. Where do you fall on the convenience to quality spectrum, or the price to quality spectrum? Even if I had an unlimited amount of money, I would still strive to get great value for my money and make wise decisions. I hope so anyway. I'm not opposed to zooms. I've gone through phases with both, but I really do prefer shooting primes, both now and just from an overall perspective of having gone back and forth a few times. There's beauty in working around limitations. I'm not out here for a cushy experience. I don't want all of my problems solved for me in advance. I kinda like the struggle. I do. I like the struggle.